Hi players, bonjour. Actually, hello. Hello from Birmingham, UK. My name is Asaf and welcome to my channel Easy Board Games. With me today I have a man that does not need any type of introduction, but I'm going to introduce him anyway. That's Alex Radcliffe from BoardGameCo.
Hello Asaf, what are you doing in Birmingham?
So we just finished UKGE, right? Today was the last day. You were there, so you should know.
I was there.
You were there, yeah. 100%.
Yeah, it happened. It's UKGE. It's in Birmingham. It happens every year. It's a delightful convention to go to if you like exhibitor-based conventions like Origins, Gen Con, Essen, PAX Unplugged, and of course UKGE.
So that's actually leading me to the first question that Alex agreed to do an interview. So that's actually a very good takeoff. And let me ask you, please. This is your first time in UKGE?
Yes. Okay.
How do you? What did you think about it so far, about the expo?
So that's a lot. How detailed do you want me to go here?
I mean, go ahead.
Okay.
Worst case, I'm going to stop you.
That's terrible. I wouldn't want to be stopped. UKG. So there's a lot of different conventions that do a lot of different things. There's exhibitor-based conventions, like all the ones I just mentioned. There's playing games conventions. There's Gamma, which is very much for the industry. So there's lots of different conventions. I would say that I'll give a loose answer about exhibitors and then UKG specifically.
Okay.
I like exhibitor-based, I like all conventions, but I like exhibitor-based conventions because it's an opportunity to see a lot of the games and the booths in a way that you don't get from other conventions. Every type of convention gives you something different. Exhibitor-based conventions are often to see the new stuff coming up, to see games being demoed, to play often to sit down and play a lot of things. You have a lot of that kind of stuff, opportunities. Specifically with UKGE, I would say that it's nice in several aspects. It's not nice in the sense that I have to fly overnight and get 2 hours of sleep the first night. So that part's not great because it's far away from where I am. In all other aspects, it's pretty good. It's kind of similar in size to PAX Unplugged. I believe they had 42,000 unique visitors this year, which I think was a record, or maybe a post-COVID record, something, but pretty large overall.
Some sort of a record.
Some sort of record. If nothing, it's the most visitors they've had in 2025 for sure. But outside of that, it's large enough that there's a lot of things happening, but not so crowded either, because they expanded to, from what I heard, they expanded to like more halls than previous years, but the visitors went from here to here, but the size went from here to like here, which until the visitors catch up, that means it felt roomy. Well, not roomy might be the stretch. It didn't feel shoulder to shoulder.
Not so overcrowded.
Yeah, like if you've been to Gen Con or Essen, I haven't been to Essen, but from what I hear, then those are going to be more crowded, 100%. More bumper to bumper. So it had a lot of things. It was very roomy. I would say on the lower side of things, I would say that I find that Gen Con and Essen are the main release conventions where you get to see newer things.
New stuff.
Yeah, and PAX Origins and UKGE I think are a little on the lower end. Definitely some newer things, but less exciting new stuff. So I had a good time. I saw a lot of things I expected to see. I had some fun demoing certain games. The 2 games in particular I had a lot of fun with.
Which games, if we're already talking about it?
Fate of the Fellowship, which is the pandemic Lord of the Rings system.
Yeah.
Had one play, loved my one play. This is not a review, I need more plays, but I loved my one play. And then similarly, I got a chance to demo the Realm of Reckoning from Ivy Studios.
Okay.
And again, one play, so take it with a grain of salt, but I thought it was fantastic based off that first play. Both games I need more plays of, both games I will get more plays and coverage your way.
But you do look forward to play it again.
I look forward to playing both those again, very much so. Probably, this is the tricky part. I think Realm of Reckoning is more interesting in what it's doing.
Okay.
And I think you can have possibly a better range of how good it can be.
Okay.
But I think Fate of the Fellowship is easier to table and will provide a more consistently good experience. So I think Fate of the Fellowship will always be a consistent here.
Sure.
Because Realm of Reckoning is probably going to ricochet from here to here depending on your group, the specific play. So one I think has better highs and one I think is more stable.
Oh, fair enough. Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see when you get it played more.
This is all conjecture
for
from
sure.
one play based on playing a lot of games. It's conjecture, but more plays will either validate that or not.
Alex, you've mentioned a few conventions just before. How do you usually prepare yourself for an expo or a convention?
I pack my backpack and I go.
Just like that?
Mostly. Genuinely, what I've done is, because I travel so much at this point, a lot of things I've tried making as streamlined as possible. So, for example, any single type of charging cable, I have duplicate copies always in my backpack.
Okay.
That way I never have to sit there and be like, grab these cables and those. No, the charging cables are cheap enough that my backpack always has the charging cables I'll need. Then I make sure I have the basics, passport, driver's license, depending if I'm going internationally or not. Things like that are always on my list mentally. I used to have actual lists. I do it often enough
Like
at this
check
point.
boxes?
Yeah.
All right.
But I do it often enough at this point that like as long as I get my passport and like my driver's license
You're good to
and my
go.
credit cards, it's not that I'm good to go, it's that the rest of it is pretty just en route. And
Okay.
on the off chance I forgot something, I will live.
But you're talking about like more logistic wise.
Yes.
I'm talking about like, or maybe you don't do any kind of preparations to
Sure.
the expo itself. Like, do you have an agenda?
Gotcha. So it depends on the convention. I think that in most conventions, I do walk into them with some degree of meetings.
Okay.
I find that, and this obviously your experience is always going to be different, whether you're going, just a consumer to try games, whether you're like I am more on the business side of things, whether it's as BoardGameCo or GameFound.
Yeah.
I often am trying to meet with people while I'm there. I also like to see the hall. So like generally for most conventions, and everyone's going to have a different range, but for most conventions, I beforehand will try to arrange as many meetings as possible.
Yeah.
I find that practically speaking, if you're trying to meet with a publisher for any reason, it is going to be significantly easier to have a scheduled meeting than to like go up to them and hope they're free while they're trying to sell games to customers. So I try to have scheduled meetings as much as possible.
Okay.
And I also try to always leave myself a window of time to see the hall because
Do you find time to
Yes.
actually visit and see what's going on?
absolutely. And Gen Con's the main one. I haven't been to Essen. That's going to be crazy. Gen Con is usually the one where I try to leave myself a window.
Okay.
And then as it gets closer and closer, the window gets filled up.
I'm guessing
Con's
that
the
Gen
hardest.
Con probably is the closest version of North America to European Essen.
Almost certainly, just,
Okay.
just from what I hear of them. So Gen Con is very, very busy for me. But for anything aside from Gen Con, like for example, for this UKGE, I had meetings for 2 of the days and I left one day open to just see the hall entirely. I would say that even when I have meetings, if they end fast enough, that gives me like 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there to see things. And the nice part is if you are going to more conventions, like if you're going to one convention a year, you're going to want to see a lot of things. The more you go to things, the more you're like, yeah, I've seen that Chip Theory Games has Elder Scrolls. I know that this game is here. So I need less time than I would if I were going to one convention a year
Sure.
to see the hall. But it's still fun to walk up and down the aisles, see something new, whether it's a board game, a trinket sometimes, a t-shirt. It is nice to walk up and down.
Alex, we talk, I mean, we practically spent like a lot of time together in the last 3
Yes.
days. We talk a lot about board games. God only knows how much we talked about board games.
Yeah.
I have a question. What led you from the beginning
Yeah.
to board games in general?
Okay. So board games in general, I'll give you the short pitch, pitch story. I played assorted board games here and there over the years. Before I got into the hobby, I played Catan, I played Carcassonne, I played Corridor. Actually, I played Corridor fun story here. While I was here, I got to meet the president of Hachette UK. Okay, so the CEO of Hachette UK. Hachette distributes Corridor. He's been playing Corridor for forever, and I never knew the guy before. Like I know a lot of people, but I haven't been to the UK, and he's specifically the UK CEO. And we just got to talking, and I brought up Corridor. I don't remember what happened, but whatever happened, we got to talking about Corridor, and he's like, yeah, it's such a great game. And I was like, yeah, it's so good. I was like, we started bonding over how good and mean. It's a mean game. And we sat down to play a few rounds in Giant Corridor. So I got to play Corridor, a game that I've played before I even got into the hobby with the Hachette CEO. And by the way, just for the record, I beat him the first game. He thought he was going to beat me. I beat him the first game. The second game, I'm going to send him this video. Okay, Flavian, if you're watching, I'm going to send you this video. The second game, he had me. He had me dead to rights. I thought it was gonna be like a fair match, and then he did right. I was like, you got me. And then he managed to place a piece in the wrong place, and then I got the game. It's just he
Right
made one
at the last
oversight.
moment, yeah.
He did a screw up, and I was like, what are you doing? And then I placed my piece. I was like, what are you doing? He's like, So
I missed that.
Yeah. Either way, it's great. It was good because Corridor is one of the games I played before I got into the hobby. So Carcassonne, Corridor, ironically, Game of Thrones, the board game, the first edition, I played that.
Really?
So there's like 5 or 6 games that happened to get play over the years, not in 1 year. Like
Game of Thrones is quite the game to play before getting into the hobby.
But it's also an IP that's very popular. My brother loved the books. He got the board game. We played it. So I played a few hobbyist games over the years. None of that led me to board gaming. That just led me to happen to experience games. In 2011, I believe it was, my brother-in-law came home with 2 games. He came home with from college or whatever it is with Stone Age, and then like 3 months later he came home with Small World, and I played those within like a 3-month period, and that was like I played these games that I really enjoyed that were really well done within a short period, and I was like, those are great. Why have I never heard of these games before? Versus the others had been like 1 a year or maybe even less than that, like very infrequent.
Sure.
So I got to try these games, and I was like, let me look into it a bit. And I started researching, and I was like, oh, there's like 17 expansions for Small World, and look at all these other games, and what is cool stuff in Miniature Market? And so I bought a lot of games in a very short time frame. I mentioned Fate of the Fellowship, which is based on the Pandemic system.
Sure.
Pandemic was one of the first games I bought. So one of the first games I bought was Pandemic, and I got the chance to play that and get and really fall in love with the hobby from those. And that very quickly led to me snowballing into collecting and then all the other things from there. But it was my brother-in-law bringing home 2 games that I'd never heard of within a very short time frame.
So talking about snowballing from board game to board game, what led you for that the decision to go from just board gaming to actually starting a YouTube channel?
So the YouTube channel was specifically started because, and if you've watched my stuff a while, you might know this, but BoardGameCo was originally a retail operation. It was me, I got into the hobby, I started snowballing, I bought a lot of games, I got to a point where I had way too many games, and I was trying to get more games, and so I'd often was trading games. I'd play the game, if it worked for me, great. If it didn't work for me, I wanted to trade it for the next one. So I got heavily into the trading scene. And that slowly turned into trying to like grow it more and more, almost like a side hustle where I was like, if I can buy games cheap and then play them and then trade them for other games, I can kind of work my way to getting like a cycle of paying very little and being able to get as much game out of a small amount of money, because I got heavily into the hobby. I was spending too much money, so I was trying to slow down and try to figure out a way to turn games.
We know how expensive this hobby can get.
I was trying to turn games into other games, and so that led to trading, and that over time led to me starting a company called BoardGameCo, where I went from like a side hustle of getting extra games on the cheap to being able to actually realize like I had a real business opportunity depending on how I approached it. And so I tried turning it into a business. I moved it to a warehouse in North Carolina. I hired a bunch of employees. I went from like a side hustle to making money to hiring people and not making money for 4 years to finally starting to scrape by and making money at the end of whatever, and then did that for till like 2022. But as part of that journey in 2019, I decided to start doing Instagram and YouTube. I did Instagram for 4 months, didn't care enough. I wasn't invested in what I was doing, but I did it.
Because the platform didn't click with you?
It didn't, I wasn't emotionally connected to writing a short snippet and then sending it off into the ether, and writing has never been my forte.
Because you and short text is just, it doesn't go together.
So one of the things I used to do before BoardGameCo, actually, I love doing this. I just haven't done it in years. Is every week I would do a write up of like a game. So I would do one review, kind of as BoardGameCo, like the retail operation, and I would just put out on my email blast that went out once a week to my subscribers.
Okay.
That I liked. Doing a full review in a written format, it takes a lot of time. But I did enjoy the process of doing that. Versus doing a short snippet on Instagram, that didn't resonate with me as much. So it was mostly about taking a nice picture.
Because you felt like maybe you had to condense too much.
The format didn't inspire me. However, like whatever it is. And so I did it for a few months. Didn't stick with it. And then I started doing YouTube in towards the end of 2019, December 2019, I started it, and I was doing it primarily as like, hey, I'm a company, I should have social media and outreach and all those things. And if you watch my very first videos, you'll see that like in the first like 5 to 10 videos, I'm like, this video is brought to you by BoardGameCo, buy, sell, and trade your way to a better collection. But like that kind of tapered off very quickly, because very quickly I realized I was connecting with the media. I was enjoying the process of talking about board games. And so very quickly my social media for BoardGameCo wasn't advertising BoardGameCo. It was just me talking about board games while happening to be BoardGameCo and naming the channel BoardGameCo. I did that for a while, and I was fortunate to have it start to grow. And there was a point where I kind of realized this is what I want to do. Like I did the board games because I was like, okay, there's an opportunity to be involved in something I love, but I never quit my day job. I just did that on the side. I hired other people and made very little money myself and had a day job that paid the bills. And with YouTube, I was like, this is something I'm enjoying. This is something I'm passionate about. I'm loving this.
Clicked with you from the very beginning.
Heavily. Running a retail operation was being involved in a hobby I love, but in a way I didn't like. It was customer service and trying to arrange a transaction and then taking care of it after. So yes, there's a closeness to something I loved, but I wasn't loving what I was doing. It was just a way to be adjacent to a hobby I enjoyed. Versus YouTube felt like I was adjacent to something I'm enjoying while loving it. And I realized there was a point that I was like, this is what I want to do with my life. This is what I want to do. Well, my life might sound a bit grandiose. This is what I want to do now. This is what I want to do right now. This is what I would love to be able to do. And at first it was nothing. Then it was maybe this could be a side hustle. And then 2 years later, I was like, this might be able to be something full time. And that's kind of the journey. And then eventually I closed down BoardGameCo because I couldn't have a day job, BoardGameCo, and YouTube at the same time. Something
just
had to give.
Too much to handle.
Too much. And so I gave up. I gave up my day job. I gave up BoardGameCo. Then I gave up my day job, then I was full-time YouTube, and then GameFound came along and offered me a job there, and I was able to do that, which that's helped as well, just so, yeah.
Do you remember your first video?
Yeah, of course. I was in my basement, I was on my phone, and spinning wildly around in circles while saying, hello world. That's, by the way, is because one of the things I used to do is I used to be a programmer to an extent, and hello world is often the first thing you write in code.
Yeah.
So I did that in my video just because I was like, hello world, and then I just spun around in my basement for like 15 minutes while promising absolutely nothing, saying I might do these again, I might do it more often, I might do it less often, and I apologize if you get dizzy, but you can watch the video.
If we're already talking about one of your first videos, you did a comparison between Cthulhu Death May Die
And Zombicide.
There you go.
It was either video 2 or 3, I can't remember which one.
I'm pretty sure it was your second video, but I might be wrong.
It was 2 or 3, I just remember that.
Do you feel that your opinion regarding that comparison still holds?
I can't remember what my opinion was.
Fair enough.
I mean,
Okay.
I love both games, and I know what my opinion is now. I don't remember what my opinion would have been back then.
And in general, do you feel, or do you know most likely, that your opinion regarding certain comparison, I'm not talking about like specific reviews for a game, but like different videos that you did comparison between games.
Play this, not that, yep.
Yeah, exactly. Do you feel that your opinion changed with time regarding the comparison, not regarding a single review for a game?
It depends on the game comparison. It very much depends. Like, there are some game comparisons where I just don't play the other game anymore. Play This Not That is a series where I compare 2 games.
Yeah.
More often than not, I'm doing it between 2 things I really like. Because, like, again, this goes to the passion. There's not a lot of passion behind, I love this game and this is trash, don't play this. That's not like, I don't care about that. That's not exciting. But so more often than not, Play This Not That is actually 2 games I enjoy. And one of them I really like, the other one I am either okay with or I don't like, and that can happen, but sorry, I said that wrong. More often than not, it's between 2 games I really like. When it's the other time, when I didn't like one, then my opinion is definitely the same because I'm not playing the other one.
Of course.
So like I did one fairly recently with Cthulhu Death May Die, well, a year ago recently, 2 years ago recently, with Cthulhu Death May Die versus Manchester Madness.
Yes.
I haven't played Manchester Madness since that video. My opinion definitely still stands. Nothing would have changed my opinion unless I stopped liking Cthulhu Death May Die, which has not happened.
Okay.
So in those cases, or I did I did Pandemic versus, again, Pandemic's back in the video. I did Pandemic versus Atlantis Rising. My opinion hasn't changed there. Both are good. Pandemic is much better to me, and Atlantis Rising is a good game. When my opinions are more nuanced, when they are closer, like the original first kind of comparison, it wasn't called Play This Not That back then, but the original first comparison I ever did was Cthulhu Death May Die and Zombicide Black Plague. That opinion is far more nuanced. It depends on the game. You'd have to give me 2 games, and then I'd have to like either remember what my opinion was or tell you what my opinion is now.
What is exactly now,
Yeah, so it's hard because those are game systems that I have continued to play. I don't remember my opinion was back then, but my opinion now is Cthulhu Death May Die is better, but Zombicide Black Plague is still amazing. They both have specific aspects that make me more intrigued by one over the other, but ultimately I do prefer Cthulhu Death May Die, at least now.
When you're looking backwards into your channel,
Yes.
okay? I don't know if you sometimes just like, go back and watch your early videos or something like that.
Try not to.
Okay,
Try not to.
fair
It's
enough.
horrifying.
Do you feel that your channel has changed tremendously, a little bit?
In the first year, absolutely. I think from the first year, the first videos I did till now, I think there's a lot of change. I think mostly for the better. I think some things possibly for the worse. I do think over time I have sped up how fast I talk. I don't know why that is. Like, to me, that makes no sense. It might just be I'm normally a fast talker off camera. I do wonder, this is something I've wondered about, I don't know. I wonder if as I got more comfortable being on camera, my speed went to my normal speed, as opposed to like, hey, I'm on camera, I need to slow down.
Right.
And that's for better or for worse. Some viewers love that, some viewers do not. So that's definitely a big change that might be worse, might be better, depends who you are. Something I've definitely lost over time, and like I've seen other channels do the same, and I recognize it, but like I don't have an easy way to reclaim that. I should really work on it, but I think when you're less professional, there's more of a homey feel to what you're doing. And doing videos without top cameras, like my original reviews had no top camera shots. It was just me front facing the whole time because I had one camera, that's it. It was my phone. My phone was my one camera. No studio equipment whatsoever. Very often I was on a couch in my basement, which I've tried going back to, but I don't think I've captured that homey, natural feel of, frankly, being an amateur. And I mean that in a good way. Like, there's something nice about watching amateurs' content and really identifying with you're just another person behind the camera. Versus I think that there is a quality of content that's improved upon when you like have a whole studio and top shots and multiple cameras. There's a quality of content that does add to the content, but also removes some of that amateurishness that kind of is like, hey, you're just another guy playing board games. And
right.
I am just another guy playing board games, but now I also do it as a job. So there's something you lose when you change your content. I do think over the past few years, not been any significant changes, small changes. Always try to do small things here and there. But I think
definitely from the beginning of the channel.
From the beginning to now, a big thing as well. If you watch my very early videos, the level of energy, like one of the things, and we were just talking about this before.
Yeah.
But when you are talking to another human being, if you talk the exact same way on camera, it comes across as lower energy. It's just the natural aspect of just connecting with another human. You can talk a certain way and it's normal. But do that same thing on camera and it almost comes across as a level of dryness to it.
Right.
Even just the hand motions I've been doing now. I don't do that as much off camera. I use my hands off camera, not as much. There's something different. And most of that isn't with intent. But if you watch my older videos, I am very often standing very still. Often very low presentation energy. It's often like, yeah, so I enjoy Cthulhu Death May Die because it's a fun game, and I think Zombicide is also a fun game, but like there's elements that Cthulhu Death May Die does better. And like now I'm like, Cthulhu Death May Die is so much more fun than Zombicide. Like, I mean, Zombicide's incredible, don't get me wrong. Like, it's just those small pivots in energy that
to compensate what the camera takes from you.
Effectively, because you're not here. I'm not, like right now, I'm 2D. You're not in the room with me. You lose something, so you have to add something. And it's not necessarily done with intent, but it's a natural evolution over time. And if you watch my earlier videos, I think it comes across as dry. Possibly in a charming, look how, like whatever, maybe, I don't know. But I don't know. It's a balance. Things change. Things change over time.
Speaking about things that have changed over time, again, when you're looking backwards, but now a little bit more about yourself. Do you feel that you have changed as a content creator, a kind of way, and maybe more like a play? Did it change like the way that you play games today, the way that you're seeing games today? Well, go ahead.
So seeing games, not necessarily. And I've heard people talk about this in different ways. Like I've heard other reviewers be like, oh, now that I review games, I start like mentally cataloging a pro and con list as I go. And like that makes sense to me, but I've always been someone who's very analytical in the way, if you watch my channel, you know this, but I'm very analytical in the way I approach things. So just to give a random thing, like I think about everything. I don't know why. It's my brain goes a million miles a minute. I'm always thinking about things. So, and one example I always give with this is, I even know when I'm crossing the road and why. So like whenever I'm crossing the road, if I'm crossing between two spots, I always cross as soon as I can rather than later. Why? Because if I wait till later, maybe a car will be coming by when I'm trying to cross, and then I'll lose 2 seconds while I wait. If I cross earlier, then even if a car's coming, then I can wait and it hasn't slowed me down. Small stupid stuff like that. This is stupid. You don't want to live your life this way, but this is why my mind naturally thinks. I'm always thinking about the whys of how things are. So like I always approach games by, or anything. It could be games, it could be the which flavor of ice cream we want. We've had conversations about like what's better, steak or ice cream, like anything you want. I like talking about things and I approach things with like thinking through it. So for me, there hasn't been a change to the way I play board games, the way I think about them, because I always thought through what I like, don't like, all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
The main thing that's changed is my playing habits, because now playing is a job, versus before playing was just playing. And that changes the way you approach anything. So like now, if it's game night with my friends, I could play, let's pick random things. I could play Study, which I'm enjoying and I like and I'll have fun with. But then there's a part of me that's like, or I could play Fate of the Fellowship again and that can turn into more content. They're both games I want to play. Why wouldn't I play the game that can also turn into more content? And that's the biggest hurdle I've had with the change in the way I approach games. Because now any amount of game time, there's that part of me that's like, this could be useful for content, and it can still be fun.
Convert it to some...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why play the game you like when you can play the game you like that you also need to make a video on? That just seems so inefficient.
But do you feel that creating that content and creating quite a lot of content, does it take some levels of enjoyment from games? Like, do you, let me maybe rephrase it. Do you sometimes feel that you want to play a game again, you want to explore its depth, but you're like, I don't have time for it, I have to move on to the next project?
Yes and no. I mean, more yes, I guess, but specifically what I'd say is I enjoy playing games, and I always play games, and I try to play as many games as possible, both new and old and everything. And I do play games again, even when I'm done reviewing them. I frequently do go back. The thing specifically that I don't love is if I take 45 minutes out of my day to play a video game, it's done. I'm playing a video game. I don't sit there and think to myself, well, I could be working this time. The only thing I really think I've lost in this capacity is when I'm going to play a board game, there's a part that can never remove the fact that I could play for fun, which is just exploring a game I want to explore.
Right.
Or I could play for fun and work. because that seemed, again, going back to the crossing the road stupid thingy, like it seems efficient. If you can do, because right now I would be equally happy playing the Fate of the Fellowship or playing Study. One of them I need to play more time so I can review. The other one I already reviewed. So if you had a choice, Asaf, between doing two things that are equally fun, but one is also useful for work, why would you choose the one that's just fun when you could do the fun and work?
If you're really asking, like if that's a legit
Yeah.
question, I would say that when you're playing a game for another time, okay, so even though it might not be efficient for your work, I would say that maybe if you're playing a game another time, your level of enjoyment might be a little bit or a lot higher because you can explore something that you love, like to a deeper way.
So that's a different hypothetical, though. I'm saying right now, arguably, I want to play Fate of the Fellowship more because I've only played it once. I still want to explore more.
Sure.
So, and the way I solve it, I have a way to solve it, sort of. But effectively, the problem I have is it does feel inefficient. Meaning, okay, I guess the way I'd phrase it is, the problem I have is the fact that I have a hard time mentally disconnecting that there can be a work benefit while engaging in fun.
Fair enough.
And so it removes some of the pure joy. There's not an unadulterated joy to the hobby because everything doubles up. So when I play a video game, I'm just doing it for the sake of the video game. And when I play a board game, even if I choose Study, there's still that aspect of how work mentally kind of wrapped itself into it. And so to that part I can't remove, the fact that it's there. Some of the way I solve it is sometimes I just intentionally choose Study because I want to make sure it's not always work. Sometimes I let my game group decide what game we're playing. That often helps. Letting my game group be like, hey, what game do you guys want to play tonight? That's a great option where it's removed from me.
Let go the responsibility, so to say.
Exactly. And they choose what's fun for you. And sometimes they choose a thing that's work-based anyway, but it means I'm no longer making that decision. So there's definitely some degree of things that are lost. And I've covered this in videos, but this has been so much joy that's been added to my life by the fact that this is what I do, but it certainly comes at a cost of the way you look at things. That there's a reason, sometimes, it's an interesting thing, but I specifically play video games. I give the example for playing video games because usually every day for around half an hour to 45 minutes, I take a coffee break in the afternoon and I play video games. This is my de-stress time.
Sure.
There have been times where I've wanted to play a solo board game instead of a video game for my coffee break, and I almost always don't. Because
really?
I'm like, video games are completely untainted from any sense of work. That's why I don't stream them 99% of the time. They're untainted. Video games are purely fun. And then when it's board games, it's almost like that. I want to have something that is not adjacent to work. But again, to be very clear, I love what I do. I love the opportunities I have. There is a cost to making your life this invested into the hobby. A small cost, but with many things that are compensating for it, but it's there.
Alex, we talked a little bit about the past. Let's look a little bit into the future. Do you have something that you would like to change in your channel, long term, near future? One or two examples, if it exists.
So sure, the most basic, the easiest answer I can give is something I've said in the past, which is there are certain forms of content I do. Play This, Not That is one of them. 12 by 12 reviews are another. That's where I kind of play a game at every possible configuration. So instead of being like, hey, I played it 4 times, here's a review, I'm like, I played it at every player count, with every module, with every expansion, and every whatever way, any way it could be played, I played. That's another format I do on the channel. Those two specifically, possibly others, are formats that I want to do more than I currently do. They're harder to do than other videos. They're not as rote, so to speak. So it's not as like, hey, I can just put together the notes and then done.
Yeah.
They're a lot more work. And in the case of the 12 by 12, I have to have played it. That's why when I pick Study, it goes into the 12 by 12 eventually.
Right.
So now it's still work. Those are things I wish I did more of, and I've been trying to do more of. Outside of that, there's not a ton. I don't want the channel to ever become stagnant and just the same thing. I do find there's always some degree of small changes there are, but as I said, the changes are smaller and smaller over time. And it's not, I don't know, it's not always easy to think of like, what's the new thing that I want to do that mixes it up? What else can I add? There are things I wish I could do, but I just don't think I have the bandwidth or justification for it. Like a good example is what frequently requested is like B-roll. B-roll on videos is frequently requested, but I put out a lot of videos every single week, and I don't enjoy the process of video editing. I enjoy the process of talking about board games. So I do the thing that I enjoy, which is talking about board games. Video editing, it's just I don't have the bandwidth for it, and the monetary justification isn't there. Paying an editor to editor and B-roll, just not worth it from the sense of like I'd be losing money on the channel. So there are things I would love to do that I don't see myself being able to do. And then there are things that I want to do that hopefully I can do more of. Like I've already done like, I don't know, I've done a few more Play This Not That and 12x12s this year.
You had also, like if I may,
sure.
you had, if I'm not mistaken, in one of your videos for resolutions for the next year, you said that one of the things you would like to do is more content with other creators.
Yes.
Which, by the way, I 100% appreciate this opportunity. It's just fun.
So I was just going over my resolutions a few weeks ago, and some of them I have been very good at, and others I have been very not. And one of the ones that I have been very not is the doing more collaborations, which is something I did early on in the channel. I did a lot of collaborations, and I've done far fewer recently. And some of that's just logistics. I think when I started during COVID, and so doing video call collaborations was very common at the time because that's the only way you could actually collaborate.
And relatively easy.
Yeah, it's relatively easy. And I don't love doing it as much as in person, but in person's hard. In person's tricky. I'm not like I could do more things like this, but like it's not that common.
Just need to cross the pond.
Yeah, I still want to. I still want to. That was one though that I was like, I haven't been traveling in a way that makes that viable, and it's sad because I think it's really great to collaborate with other people.
Alex, do you feel that you have one example would be great of an exceptional experience regarding board games? Something that like, oh my God, that was like an incredible evening, that was epic, or an exceptional experience with board games. Is there something that comes to mind?
No. The short answer is no. I mean,
because there were so many?
It's definitely happened. The question is, which experiences do I think of as something exceptional? Like, I remember one time I went to do a video of like 10 board games that changed my life. I only ever got up to like 4 of those, and I never did the video.
Nice.
But to be clear, it's not that the experience was exceptional. It's just that, like, I'll give you, I guess, a spoiler to if I ever do this video. Here's like 2 of them, for example.
Go ahead.
So one of them was like Spirit Island, for example.
An exclusive.
It's an exclusive first look to a video that may never happen. One of them is Spirit Island. Spirit Island was very impactful to my journey into solo gaming. And so I only started playing solo games because of Spirit Island. I had tried solo games before and bounced off hard. And then one day I played Spirit Island, and it led me down a different hole that allowed me to experience different aspects of gaming. And I talked about this in a video, so that's not even an exclusive. But here's one that's an exclusive one that you can actually have, which is Kamisato. Kamisato was a game that if I didn't play Kamisato, my life would just be in a different place now. Practically speaking, I genuinely believe that. Because really? Kamisato was a game that I happened, at my very first job, way back, and a job I never even talk about, but like my first job I had, well, my first job in the States, I guess, but as an adult, my first job was basically purchasing for a nursing home distributor. So they bought like, medical supplies and food, and it supplied nursing homes, and I did purchasing for them. And I had a board game in the office one day, and somebody else was coming through to build their website, and he saw the board game on the table. He's like, "What's that?" It was a very colorful board game called Kamisato. And I was like, "Oh, let me show it to you. It's a quick game to teach and play." I actually just saw it at UKGE. I almost wanted to buy a copy. I had such fond memories of it.
Just for the nostalgia.
Just for nostalgia, because I don't have it anymore. But like, it's whatever. So I taught him the game. We played the game, and then fast forward, and then because of that, I got to know this person. Again, he was building the website for this company. I got to know him, and we bonded for a few minutes and had a good conversation. And fast forward, 6 months when I had lost my job there. And I reached out to like a bunch of contacts I had, and one of the people I reached out to was this person.
That guy.
And I'd only gotten to know him from playing this board game that was on the table. And then I got a job there, where I then worked for the next 7 years, and that was the job I had before going full time. Before going full time in the board game space, then to GameFound. But like, if I hadn't had that job, like that was the 7 years of my life at this company. I don't know what my life would be like at all. I assume I'd still be into board games. I mean, I definitely would, because I was into board games first. But like the order of things, I don't know what my life would look like at all if I spent 7 years in this company. And so Kamisato gave me this opportunity. For all I know, I'd have a much worse job. I don't know. My life would be different.
That's an amazing story regarding board games.
But the board game itself wasn't that like incredible. It
relates to board games.
It relates to board games.
Sure.
And now I think I have like 2 more, but I want to get to 10. I've never gotten to 10. So it's going to be 4 board games that changed my life is not as good of a title, but that does mean I've been sitting on this video idea for like literally 4 years at this point, and haven't gotten further because I forget to do that.
It might be a good video for like a retirement video in the very far future.
At this point, I think I can get to 10 because the tricky part is it's not even that impactful. They're just small moments. A small moment with a board game that possibly wouldn't have happened otherwise, I think I can get to 10. I just have to like actually sit down and think about it.
Sure.
But to answer the original question, they definitely exist. Impactful, cool moments that knocked me out of the park definitely exist.
Just hard to come up with
I don't remember them at the moment.
Sure. Alex, one more question about the future. Many people would say, I'm guessing maybe it's like very common in the industry, that right now we're situated in the golden era of board games.
Sure.
Where do you see the industry going to?
Oh, it's been pretty stable for a while. Now, everything to do with tariffs definitely potentially changes things. If tariffs start to come back, you're going to see a lot of return to anything that allows publishers to sell board games in a more efficient way. So smaller board games could be a big thing in general, more print and plays, more digital board games, more board games that are focused on the experience with less component. So if tariffs currently are lower, possibly going away as of the time of filming, but I know publishers are preparing for smaller board games when tariffs were at 145%. So that's the main question mark. But I am optimistic, perhaps foolishly so, and I think that the current temporary tariff situation, I think, is going to stay.
It's just a hiccup?
No, I think it's going to stay. I think it's going to be permanent. I think the tariffs are going to be low or gone.
Okay.
I think, but I tend to be an eternal optimist, even when I shouldn't be. So we'll see. But assuming tariffs are not a huge part of the board game industry, I don't see significant changes. There's always small things. Like there was a huge wave of like print and plays, and trick-taking games are hugely popular right now. So you're seeing a lot of those things, like lots of imports from Japan. But these are things that have been around for a while now. And so trying to predict the next trick-taking game, the next roll print and play, or roll and writes. I'm saying those are roll and writes and trick-taking games. I think are the big two waves we've seen. So I think leaning into that as a conversation, I think the main thing we're probably going to see more of is something we're already starting to see, which is big publishers who have big presences, dabbling in smaller games. Meaning crowdfunding in general has shifted the market so that you see a lot of the market has moved to crowdfunding as their first intro, as publishers being able to grow. But then from there, once publishers have been able to validate their existence by showing, look at us, look at Pavison Games with Luthier and Distilled, and look at this company that this guy
just emerged.
Yeah, just emerged from nowhere, and the market validates that they like his stuff. Great. Now he has to get his stuff into retail. So you go from being this boutique mass big box expensive games to also wanting a piece of the retail pie, and that results in a lot of these big publishers trying to figure out, okay, we're going to keep having the games we're known for that brought us like the degree of fans and presence, but we also need to make sure that we're catering to both markets. And so you see things like, I think Pavison Games has Class of '89 coming up, which is a
we just saw it in UKGE.
Yep, that's why it's on my mind. You've seen recently Chip Theory Games is dabbling a lot in smaller box things, from 20 Strong to Dragons of Etchenstone. They have their whole Neon Knights line from Annie Tremblay. So they're trying to maintain their audience while catering to smaller stuff as well. There's been several other publishers I've talked to who have plans for smaller things to go along with their big things. You have Orange Nebula doing a smaller box Vindication so it can have a nice strong retail presence. So we'll call it Vestige or Vestige, whatever it was. So you have a lot of these big publishers trying to make sure that they are not just crowdfunding publishers. Because I think like most business things, you want to make sure you're evenly distributed. You don't want to give up crowdfunding because who knows what's going to happen. Again, going back to tariffs, if tariffs stay in place, direct to consumer.
You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket.
Exactly. And so I think that you'll see a lot of big box even you see Gloomhaven with buttons and bugs and whatnot. You see there's a lot of these options for big publishers to have small box availability while maintaining their big box presence to make sure they are catering to those that want the giant big deluxe-fied experiences, and also those that are either getting fatigued on them and want something cheaper, or just those who are never going to buy a big box experience in the first place, or those who don't go on crowdfunding and you need that retail presence. So I think having a shift from those publishers seeing smaller things we'll definitely see more of.
Going back to YouTube, if today, because we talked about it a little bit, about channel growth and stuff like that, what advice you would give today to John Smith out there that is thinking, I like what they're doing, I think I can do something different, or I would like to express my opinion as well. What advice would you give to that person wanting to open a YouTube channel?
So I'm going to start off negative. I'll turn it back. I'm going to start off negative. The first piece of advice I'd give is don't. That's the first.
Simple as that.
No. That's why I turn it around.
All right.
My advice to someone starting a channel would be don't, or more, that's too cruel. That's too mean. Let's change it. Why are you starting the channel? Let's establish the reasons you're starting. What is it you're trying to get out of it? Do you want to turn this into a job? Is that what you're hoping that this will be your income one day? Do you just like talking about board games? Do you want like a following? Like you don't care about money, but you want to be someone who has people who are listening to you and paying attention.
Someone in the industry.
Figure out your why. Yeah, someone in the industry. Figure out your why first. And then really try to focus on whether you're able to achieve that, what you're able to do to achieve that, and how realistic that is. So, for example, if you just want to talk about board games, that's an easy one. Talk about board games. Done. Go ahead and do it. We can get into the why, the advice part in a second, but great, go ahead and do it. If your goal is a monetary incentive or your goal is to be someone in the industry, that's where we get into the don't. But then, if that doesn't scare you off, okay, now let's talk about it. And what I mean by that is many industries, I'd say most passion-driven industries, designing a board game, being in a band, being an actor, anything that's passion-driven where it's like, oh my gosh, I want to do this cool thing. Those are very hard industries to break into, no matter where you are. And on the board game YouTube side, that's just a small. Board game YouTube side is very small. At least if you're an actor, if you make it big, you can actually make money. In board game YouTube, if you make it big, you can have a second job to make money. I think you have to really establish your why. Then if your why is based off of audience size or money, the first answer should be no, this is not a good idea. If you still aren't scared off by that, okay, great, now power through it. But understand that you should understand the hardship of it before you dive into it. I love what I do, make no mistake. I think it's tremendous. I get to be here in UKGE talking to you, having a conversation about board games, and like, it's amazing. It's amazing. It's incredible. It's so cool. It's also a lot of work. It's also a lot of pressure. It's just a lot, and it's hard to often get to numbers, whether viewership or financially, that make it worth that journey. So you have to be kind of willing to power through a hard time, which is why my first answer is don't. They say like it's that joke about like how do you make $1 million in the restaurant business? You start with 2 million.
Right.
That's like the common joke. And it's the same idea in YouTube. It's like you're going to start by having no viewership, then you'll start making a little bit of money, then you'll start spending more than you're making just to justify your channel's existence. I guarantee this. Everyone goes through this arc. Now, whether you break past that arc is different, but you're like, oh, now I need a camera, now I need to go to conventions, I buy more board games, and I have to because I'm reviewing them. So you're spending $40 buying a board game, you're getting 2 cents back in ad revenue. You're going to lose money before you make money, and you may never make money. If you do PowerPoints past the point where you're making money, it's usually not worth your time. So I hope that money is not the main motivator, because it's gonna be hard to get to the point where you can say that it's worth the time. Now you might get past all that. Again, you might. I'm not saying you won't. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying you need to be able to power past the don't in order to really even try, because you need to know it's an uphill climb. But once you are, okay, now that we're past all that, either you're doing it because you want to, or you broke past the don't. You broke past it, you're like, I still want to do it. I'm passionate about it, I love this, it's an opportunity, I'm willing to power through, I'm willing to make it happen. The first thing is look into the basics. Don't just, like, congratulations, you're passionate about board games, aren't we all? What are you able to do differently? Now, not even just differently, are you able to like put in the legwork to look into the basics? Have you looked into thumbnails on YouTube? Have you looked into viewership retention? Do you know anything about metrics? Do you know anything about what it takes to actually hold an audience's attention? Figure out what your weak spots are. Figure out what your strengths are. You know, what are you particularly good about? Again, I suck at B-roll. I'm not interested in doing graphics and things. It's not what I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about talking about board games. So figure out your strengths. And they look at a channel like Tim Chun. Tim Chun's like incredible with graphics. He loves it. It makes it like, it's so cool. Figure out what your strengths are. Figure out where you can complement those strengths. Again, take a speaking class if you need to. Something I've been meaning to do, I mentioned I talk fast, something I've been meaning to do is like the idea, like maybe I should go to professional speaking at some point and figure out a way, maybe to get slightly better pronunciation. Like I am grateful that I've been successful in what I'm doing, but there are, and by the way, to be very clear, I have done a lot of this stuff I'm telling you to do. I've done a lot of the research in different areas, but I haven't done everything. I certainly could explore ways to further augment the things I'm good at, or to get better at the things I'm bad at. But you want to actually take it seriously, because if the only thing you have to offer is that you care about board games, I support you. Well, I don't know if I support you yet, I don't know you, but if the only thing you have to offer is that you care about board games, everyone does. Everyone here does care about board games. You have to be able to bring something more to the table. Whatever it is, you're great at explaining board games. You can explain a board game really, really well while capturing the core essence, while being step by step. Figure out what it is you're bringing to the table that isn't just, I like this hobby. Because I like this hobby is great, but that's not enough to drive an audience. One of the things I've always said is you have to either be doing something different or doing something better. If you're not doing one of those things, then you're basically just in a backlog of other people who are doing something different or doing something better.
Sure.
So figure out what that is that could be. Figure out where, and there's so many different ways to be better. It could be because you edit videos well. It could be because you are able to explain a game to its core concepts. It could be because you do all this scripting and editing and really make it into a video production that really captures the audience. It could be that your conversation about whether No Thanks is a great game is really a meta conversation about the nature of board games. There's so many different ways to approach it. You could have charm, you could have personality, you could have humor. There's so many different things you can do, and the ways you can do it, you have
to locate it and just
locate locate an area in which you're going to be different or better. One or the other, because otherwise it's going to be an uphill battle to become noticed. And if you only care about talking about board games, if that's why you're doing this, who cares? Great, talk about board games. If you're doing it because you want an audience or because you want to turn it into a job, you're going to have to find one of those two things to make it.
Alex, going back to your YouTube channel, okay, to BoardGameCo, your most popular video, do you know what it is?
Top 10 worst board games, or no, worst experiences?
So top 10 worst value for your dollar.
Value for your dollar, that's what it was, yes.
That's your number one video.
Still drives me nuts.
Do you feel,
yes,
in the industry, maybe with your channel, do you feel that, quote unquote, negative videos attract more views
100%
than others?
100%.
How so?
Going back to this conversation, I did a video of the top 10 worst parts of being a content creator, and then I did a video of the top 10 best parts of being a content creator. The worst one got like 10 times the views. I regretted doing that series of videos. I was like, I wasn't here to complain. I wanted you to see that there's good things and bad things, yet 10 times as many people watch the worst parts. Like, everyone wants to hear what sucks about being a content creator. Why don't you want to hear what's good about being a content creator? Anyways, go watch both those videos. In fact, don't watch the worst one. I'll put a comment down below. Watch the one that says best parts so we can even out those numbers. So more positivity. Anyways, to answer your question.
Yeah,
negativity sells. What would you rather watch? The top 10 most disappointing experiences I've had this year, or the top 10 best experiences I've had this year?
All right.
Negativity sells. I hate that it sells, but it sells. It's, in general, the videos that have driven up, if you look at my top, I actually haven't done this, but if you look at my top 10 most watched videos, there's probably a few top 10 lists in there, and probably a whole bunch of I think there's one about Simon, about I can't remember what it was, Simon disappointed you or something like that. I can't remember what it was.
Because actually, more of your top 10 most watched videos are
solo and
for
family.
Couples.
Yep. Solo and family are up there, I believe. I think solo is the second most, or maybe family is the second most, and solo might be the third most. So they are up there. But then if you go down, they're all drama stuff sells. Whenever I'm this company's shutting down, those videos take off. And I hate that. I mean, I like the views, make no mistake, but I hate the fact that controversy and negativity is the thing that sells. Now, I don't lean into it. I specifically do not lean into it because I think I care more about myself as a person than I do about getting an extra few views. So if I allow myself to lean into the negativity because that's what sells, I'll get more views, but I just won't like who I am as a person. That said, I still make sure that I have negative content, either because it's news and it just is what it is, or alternatively, when I do my top 10 best lists of the video, at the end of every year, I have 15 videos that go up that are top 10 lists or whatever. And 13 or 14 of them are positive. And then one of them will be my top 10 games that faded for me, and then the other one will be top 10 disappointments. Now, I make sure that the majority of my content is positive because I want to be a source of positivity far more than negativity. But I do agree that negative videos do have an appeal, and I'm not going to completely leave them off the table when I think that they are adding value. I don't lean into it just for the sake of it, but when I think they're adding value, I'll do it.
But when we're talking about source of positivity and seeing that negative sells more than positive, do you feel that the viewers or board gamers in general see that there is a lot of positivity, let's say, in the industry, and they're a little bit craving of balance with the negativity, or it's just the nature of people to actually watch something that is negative?
Those are two different conversations. I'm assuming you're talking about reviews in general.
For example.
Yeah, so there's two different conversations. The default aspect is negativity sells. You're gonna, top 10 cars most likely to survive a car accident, or top 10 cars most likely to fall apart in a car accident. Negativity sells in general. There's a natural human instinct towards looking at the negative. I don't know what it is necessarily, but nobody stops to watch the cars drive by. They stop to watch the pile up. It is what it is to a certain extent. Don't get me wrong, fireworks are great. Houses burning down, kind of cooler. Not a good thing, but it it's more exciting. It's something exciting about the negativity. In the context of reviews, that's different. That's the nature of critical content, and that's where I do think the board. It's a whole different conversation.
Sure.
I don't think when somebody craves critical content in terms of reviews, I think that's less a natural human desire for the negativity, and I think that's more a pushback to the fact that the board game space in general does drift positive. And that's, to be very clear, there's a difference between drifting positive in reviews versus drifting positive. Lots of channels choose to simply not engage in negative reviews. They just don't want to talk about negative reviews for any reason. And so there is definitely, and then of course the fact that there's a lot of sponsored content. So if you're just looking at the board game space and you're looking at coverage of games, I'm just gonna make up numbers here, these are all made up numbers, but like 25% of the videos you're seeing are literally just a sponsorship for the game. It's like, here's a preview, and BoardGameCo does previews, I'm not attacking anyone, but here's a preview, here's a sponsored playthrough. Meaning it's literally just, here's content for the game that is neutral or positive, it's certainly not negative, and is all sponsored and paid for. So 25% of the content around a specific game at this point is just an ad. Once you move down that rabbit hole, there's another 25% that are people who are just excited to talk about things they like. But there are people who they don't do reviews. They're just like, I played SETI and I think it's fantastic and I think you should play it too. Do you ever say a game is not good? No, when I play a game that's not good, I don't talk about it. Why do I want to talk about a game that's not good? That's not exciting for me. Like why, I should sit here and tell you I played SETI and I hated it? Why is that fun for me? I don't want to do that. Meaning those channels are not review channels, they're recommendation channels. There's a lot of value in recommendation channels. If you watch a recommendation channel and they're like, I think SETI's fantastic. Oh, I never heard you talk about Arnak because I didn't like Arnak, or they never played Arnak. The problem is you don't know, but nonetheless, if you like their taste, you're at least getting recommendations. But that's another 25% of the content. Again, I'm making up all these percentages. And so that means that already 50% of the content is neutral to positive with not a single critical thing. Then you actually get to reviews. And with reviews, they're still going to drift positive for any number of reasons. This is where you could actually be a review channel and you might drift positive because you don't want to say negative things because you're afraid of getting not getting review copies. That's absolutely something that will happen. It doesn't mean you're lying with the positive, but it means that maybe you don't bother reviewing as negatively because you're like, if I really don't like a game, I just don't cover it. And so maybe your opinions drift from medium to positive because anything negative, you're like, I just don't review negative. You are reviewing now, but with a certain drift towards the positive. Another thing that I've said a lot is games generally, I believe, are pretty good. I think most games we play are pretty good, and especially if it's the popular stuff, which gets the most views. The more popular a game is, the more views it gets, and also the more people cover it. You have Earth making the rounds, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, Earth is amazing. So more people review Earth than they review some trash game that no one ever heard of. Like, you'll still see people putting out reviews for popular games like Earth because everyone loves them. And then you have something like Pendulum, and Pendulum gets a bunch of reviews when it first comes out, and then no one cares down the road because no one's talking about it. So there's naturally going to be a draw towards more positive, more well-received games and more press around them and more views around them. So again, it's going to drift positive. By the time you're done, you can get to like 7% of content that actually is in any way negative, and it doesn't mean anyone is lying. It could mean some people drift positive, but there's so many reasons why it's just going to drift towards the positive. But that means that there is a very natural and reasonable audience pushback where they're like, why are you all shills? Why are all of you just shills talking about positive games? Where's the person who's going to tell us like it is? Where's the person who's going to really be critical? And like I have put out videos on games where there are so many things, but like I have put out videos on games where I'm like mildly negative about it. Like I'm like, oh, I like this and this and this, but honestly, this part wasn't so great. And I'll get people being like, thank you so much for the honest review. And I'm like, why are you calling it an honest review? Because like all my reviews are honest. When I'm negative, it's called an honest review. That's so almost insulting in a way when you think about it. It is true though that there's not a ton of negative content, and so negative reviews. And so negative reviews are certainly craved. Oh, another thing as well, by the way, another reason why there's positive content is a lot of people say they want critical content, but what they really mean is they want critical content on games that they happen to think are bad. They don't actually want critical content when they like the game.
They want you to identify with them saying that this game is bad as well.
Yes.
And
because when you play their favorite game and you don't like it, you didn't read the rules right, you don't understand heavy games, you didn't play it enough. You didn't play it enough, you played it the wrong ways. So that's another reason why there are some channels that will be like, I don't want to get into a fight with all the... Like I put out this review of Ark Nova, very popular game, and I was like, it's good, here's the reasons I'm not like in love with it. Oh my gosh, like the
amount of heat.
I do get people in the comments who are like, yeah, I feel the same way, and I'm glad someone else does because it's like the number 3 game in BGG. But you also get a ton of people that are like, you don't understand the game. You didn't even say it at any point in the video that it's a race. You didn't say that Ark Nova is a race, which means you don't understand the game. So like, there's so much. I love what I do. I love what I do. Remember this. I love what I do. But there is definitely pushback. There's many legitimate reasons to have less negative content, but it does less negative reviews. But it does mean that there is certainly a craving for it. I understand why that craving exists. I think it's reasonable to want it, and I think there's a lot of reasonable reasons why it's not a lot of it.
Alex, first of all, I want to thank you so much for taking your time doing this interview. I really appreciate it, and in general, I enjoy any kind of interaction that we have, so thank you so much for that. To conclude the video, top 3 board games of all time, go.
I mean, of all time is easy. That's just referencing my top 100. That's not even hard.
But go ahead.
I mean, I guess that doesn't have to be hard for the answer, but the answers would be number 3 is going to be Cthulhu Death May Die, number 2 is going to be Vindication, and number 1 is going to be Castle of Burgundy.
And how come Castles of Burgundy is the number 1?
Castle of Burgundy is number 1, which honestly probably should have been for several years. Castle of Burgundy is number 1 because I've played Castle of Burgundy over 150 times. I've been playing it since before I ever started logging plays. Like if I had to guess, I think it's probably closer to 200, 250 plays. But I've played Castle of Burgundy somewhere in that range, and I am still just as excited every single time I play it. And it's a level of prestige. Like Vindication is great. But like I might have played Vindication 20 times, maybe, I'm not even sure, like maybe less than that, I don't know. And like to play a game 250 times and to be just as excited every single time I dive into it.
It means something.
That means something. That means something. And the deluxe version from Waking Realms certainly has not hurt it. The additional modules, like the shield modules is so much fun. The vineyards are great. There's still constant variability, but you can be playing vanilla Castle of Burgundy even with the old edition, it just holds up. It holds up to an extended amount of plays and hasn't lost any of the reason why I love it.
Alex, thank you again so much. Guys, thank you for watching this interview. I really appreciate it. Take care, and I'll see you next time.
Have a good one.